Welcome back to the Pretty Awkward Entrepreneur Podcast. This is the first episode that I'm recording while also filming for YouTube. So hello YouTube, this is going to be a filmed version of my podcast. So I hope you like my microphone. It's a handheld because I'm a weirdo and I like holding a microphone in my hand. I think it's because I'm a singer and I like just holding a mic, pretending like I'm singing. Maybe one day you'll see me with one like on a stand, and I have a stand for this, but for some reason there's just like power in holding this. So I'm excited to be here with you. I'm excited to be on video with you. I hope you enjoy this. The podcast version of this, audio only, of course, will be linked in the description. And for my podcast people, I'll make sure we get the YouTube link and we put that in the show notes. So if you prefer to watch, you can. If you prefer to listen, you can listen. We have all the things. Choose your own adventure in this pretty awkward world of ours. Okay, so today's podcast, we are going to dive in and we're going to talk a little bit about content, some limiting beliefs around content. How often should you be posting? Where should you be posting? How do you create a content plan that really leads into whatever you're wanting to sell and it's not just random, right? And we really want your content to do just that. We want it to match what you're selling. We want to match your client journey. We want to make sure you're meeting your audience where they're at and it's actually leading somewhere. It's not just random. It's not just, oh, I've got to post today. I've got to throw up content on social media. When you're in that space, you feel very rushed, you feel very pressured, and you're not treating your business like a business, right? You're just like, oh, I just have to show up. Now, when you're starting, that's understandable and that's totally fine. But even when you're starting, this is something I teach in my year-long business coaching program, which is for a lot of times for people who are just starting. I don't care if you're just starting, you can go in with a plan. You can go in treating your business like a business, treating your content like a business, because your content sells your services. If you are using social media to attract and sign clients, your content is literally selling your services. So it's so important to treat it like that. This is not just something that you're using willy-nilly and you're throwing stuff up being like, all right, cool, like I did that. You need to start treating it like a business. And when you get really clear and focused and intentional, I think intentional is the biggest word here, with your content, that's when it starts selling for you. That's when it starts, as you hear over and over again, converting. Content that converts. I hear that phrase a ton. And what that means to me is like your content's actually converting into clients. Your content is actually bringing you in money. Right? And you have to have a plan for that. You've got to know what you're selling. You got to know what's coming up. So even if you're someone who likes to kind of fly by the seat of your pants and you thrive on that, I encourage you to get a little bit more planned. Not that you have to have a year's worth planned or even 6 months, right? But what are you doing the next month? What do you want to drive traffic to, right? So it's really important to approach it that way. So before we head on, I want to make sure that you remember to sign up for the free live course that I am hosting on November 1st in my Facebook group. It's all about outlining your most amazing offer. So outline your offer, free live course. In these 5 days, you're going to outline your offer to the point where by the end of this, you're going to know the price of your offer. You're going to know the deliverables, what goes in it, how many weeks is it, what do they get, who is it for, how are you going to stand out with yours, so how can you do it a little differently than someone who has a similar offer. This is going to be an incredible 5 days, and normally this live course would be $1,000 or $997. So we're making it totally free for you, so make sure you go to the link in the description of this video, or if you're listening to the podcast, make sure you go to the link in the show notes to register. Again, we start on November 1st, so make sure you register in order to be in there. All right, let's dive in. So first thing I want to go through is when you're thinking about what content you want to put out for leading people into your offers, I like to break it up into two pieces, right? I like to break it up into what do I want to be known for as far as my expertise as a coach, as a strategist, as an entrepreneur in general, as a business owner. So what do I want to be known for? And then I also do on the other side, who am I as a person? What do I stand for? What do I stand against? What are my beliefs in my industry and outside of my industry, right? And I believe that combination also added a little third layer is more of your personality, but we're not going to talk about that today. I have tons of podcasts on that, by the way, from earlier in March of 2021 that you can check out, all about your unique coaching method. So much gold there. But the combination that I'm talking about today, when it's really talking about standing out with your content and making sure it leads naturally into your services, is what is your expertise? What do you want to be known for as far as your skill set? Why do people specifically hire you? And then what do you stand for? What do you stand against? What is your lived experience with your expertise? What is your history with your expertise? Did you go to college for it? Did you learn it in school? Did you learn it in a course? Did you learn it because you lived it, right? So your pillars, I define pillars slightly differently than I hear a lot of other people. To me, pillars is what do I stand for and stand against? And so that really helps me set myself apart from the other people with the same expertise, because there's a lot of people with the same expertise, right? They teach the same things. And so when you have your pillars where you stand for, stand against, it takes that expertise and it adds another layer. It helps you stand out. It helps you become known for delivering that expertise in a specific way, right? And I'm going to give you some examples so that makes sense. So first, write out a list of things you can't stand in your industry or just in business in general. You totally can put in like things outside of business as well, but let's just keep it this for now. So for me, I'm going to give one example. One of the things I cannot stand, that I stand against within the industry, is copying ideas, copying content, copying sales pages, copying emails, just copying, right? Not being original, using other people's work and long, hard thought of intellectual property as your own. And one of the reasons I stand so against it is because when I was in network marketing, I was taught to do that and I did it. And guess what? One, it felt really shitty, but two, it didn't work. It just didn't work. It did not convert into clients. My content did not convert into clients when I did it that way. So I stand so against copying. I think our content, we put our time, our heart, our soul into this, right? This YouTube video, this podcast, like this is something I spend so much time doing. So if someone went, listened to this podcast and verbatim pretty much said the same exact thing, I would be very upset. I'd be a little annoyed and I'd be like, wait, what's going on? I spent so much time, so much energy, so much effort putting that together. So what is the opposite of that, right? So if I'm going to have copying as something that I stand against, why, and why, obviously I just shared why, what do I stand for? What's the opposite of copying, right? And so initially when you're doing this exercise, it's going to take you it's going to take you time. You're going to not be able to spit it out just like this, like where it sounds very nice, but mine is complete unapologetic originality. When I first did this, my stand for was not copying, right? Not that sexy to say that. So I thought, and I said, well, what does not copying equal? Like what is the for? What is the positive of that, if you will? And so for me, that was complete unapologetic originality, meaning really being completely yourself, being unapologetic about it, and being super original with your ideas, with your content, trying things. Maybe they don't work, maybe they do, but you keep trying and you keep being original and you keep thinking, how can I do this differently? How can I do this in a way that's more reflective of me, right? So that's one of the biggest things that I stand against and then for. So that's more of the, why will people hire me over someone else? That's part of it, because they know that's what I stand for. They know that I'm going to help them build out offers that are completely original. In this free live course we're going to do on November 1st, I'm going to make sure you are building out your outline of your offer completely original, and it's not just a copycat of someone else's offer, right? So even if I'm building them a launch plan, right, if that's one of the expertise I want to be known for, I'm going to make sure they're doing that in a completely original way, and it's not just a carbon copy of mine or someone else's. So that's where the lens at which I'm looking at it is a little different. Now, what do you want to be known for expertise-wise? This is why people will just hire you in general, what they're looking for in a strategist, in a coach, right? Maybe they need help with high-ticket sales. Maybe they need help with client attraction, launching, if you're a health and fitness coach, weight loss, fat loss, hormone balancing, relationship coaching, sex coaching. Like there's so many types of things people seek transformations for. So it doesn't matter what type of business owner, coach, strategist you are, what do you want to be known for, right? If you could talk about something all day long, what do you want to be known for? So some examples for me: content, as we're talking about right now, launching, client attraction, high ticket sales, branding. Those are a few different things that I feel really confident coaching on, teaching on, strategizing on, and people hire me specifically for, right? But the thing is, most coaches, most business strategists can help with a lot of those. Maybe not all of them, but they're good at them, right? They should be. They should be if they're helping someone build their business specifically using social media. So I'm not going to be different if I'm like, hey, I'm a launch expert. Hey, I'm a content expert. So is everyone else who's calling themselves a business strategist and coach, right? So how do I do it a little differently, right? So for me, again, if I'm going to help you build out a launch plan, I'm not just going to have a template. I'm going to have a template, but then we're going to tweak it and make sure it's completely and unapologetically reflective of who you are, your personality, your brand, and very, very original. It's never been fully done exactly that way, right? Because that's the pillar I stand for. That combination, again, the expertise is why you hire me. The pillar is why you hire me over someone else. And when you start putting this in your content, you're going to stand out because you're not just saying, here are 4 tips to have a great launch. You're explaining, here are a few ways you can have a great launch, but here's how to make it original. Here's some questions you should ask yourself to make it different than someone else so that you can be completely original. And here's how to do it unapologetically, right? That could be a whole freaking series right there. I could have a month's worth just of content on that, right? So that's where this way of doing content has, for me and my clients, not only helped us create tons of content and never run out of ideas, but it helps us really stand out for who we are and what we stand for in our industry, not just what we do. We are so much more than just what we do, especially if you are a coach or a strategist and people are hiring you to work with you long term. They're not just buying a course. They're not just buying a passive program. If they're hiring you to work deeply with you, intimately with you, whether that's in a coaching group program or one-on-one, whatever it is, they're hiring the person as well as the skill that they're going to learn, right? They want to have that transformation, but they're also hiring you for you. And so it's important that you reflect why you do it a little differently, how you do it a little differently, how your brand, you as a personal brand or you as a brand in general, how you do it a little differently and how it's going to help them because you do it differently, right? So those 2 things, I recommend you do a little exercise. You write out all the things you stand against, then you do that exercise where I flipped it and I said, copying I stand against, I stand for complete unapologetic originality, and then write out all the skills that you want to be known for. Again, this combo is the lens at which you see your expertise and how you differ from other people who want to be known for the same exact thing. It's your perspective, it's your lived experience, it's your view on this specific expertise in the world. So another cool exercise that you could do is as you're writing out all those expertises, I have in front of me right now, I'm just reading some notes because I want to make sure I hit everything. I said I want to be known for launching, client attraction, high ticket sales, branding, content, right? So a good exercise for me to do would be next to it, I would write out what's my perspective on each of these things? How do I think they should each be done, right? Like content, not everyone considers pillars what I just said. A lot of people consider pillars launching, high ticket sales, client attraction, and that's fine. There's no right or wrong, right? There's no right or wrong. All this was made up. All this was made up sometime from someone, right? So you get to make your stuff up too, as long as it works for you and it's tried and true and you know it works. It's not just like throwing it out of your butt. If you're going to teach it, it has to be tried and true. This is tried and true. I've been in business since 2012 and I've been doing it like this for, not since 2012, we've evolved and grown, but I've learned a lot along that way and I've been doing it like this for a little bit and it's really, really made me just so confident in my content, my clients so confident in their content, and it makes us pump content out so much easier and quicker. Most importantly, it's content that is actually converting into clients, into sales, because it has a purpose. It's showing what you're great at, right? That people want. They want to hire people who are great at that specific skill that they need. And 2, it's showing how you do it differently and your perspective on it. It's deeper. They have a deeper connection to you because you're not just saying 3 tips too, but you're saying what your perspective is on it. You're educating them by also connecting with them. That's huge. The education is the actual expertise that you share, and then the connection is the pillar, how you stand for it and how you stand against it. And again, while there are recommendations on content, it truly needs to be something that you can stick to consistently. So what I mean by this is when you're thinking about how many times should I post a week? How many emails should I send a week? I actually had my funnel strategist as a guest speaker on my mastermind last week. And that was a question. Someone said, well, how often is too often to email your list? Or how often is, or how little, is too little to email my list? And he's like, I know this is an annoying answer, but there's not really a true answer. And people will give you rules of thumb and that's fine. And his rule of thumb, as well as I've heard this from so many people, is at least once a week. You want to be in their inbox once a week. And then I've heard some people say every day, 5 days a week. And then I've heard some people say twice a week. I've heard some people say monthly newsletters. I've literally heard from experts, quote unquote, all over such different answers. So what do you do with that information, right? You have to take that and test it out for what you can do. If someone told me I had to send daily emails, I would say, well, I'm probably not going to do that. I'm just probably not going to, right? Now, not that I can't make the time and the effort, but it's probably not going to be something I can stick to. For me, I do about 1 to 2 emails a week. If we're launching, obviously different. You're going to do a lot more because you're selling. So, but for regular, like just, building up my email list, building up the trust, the credibility, the connection with my email list, providing valuable content, I do about 1 to 2 emails a week. One is my podcast every single week on Tuesday. We send out an email related to the podcast, drive traffic to the podcast, now the YouTube video as well. And then I'll usually take another topic for that week that I was basically the podcast and expand upon it and just send it to my email, which usually it's something I'm doing on Instagram as well, but I'm taking that caption and I'm expanding upon it in the email. So it is a little bit different than just the repurposed caption, right? But that's a great place to start. I know a lot of people say don't do that. Don't take your caption and just stick it in an email. I think when you're starting and you're overwhelmed, that's okay to do. I don't think it's the end of the world, but it is important to have your email list open that email for a reason, right? If they're on your Instagram, they know, great, that was a great post, but this email is going to be even juicier. So I like to take that topic, take that caption and expand upon it. Maybe throw in a video, maybe throw in just a deeper dive, right? Emails you are unlimited. You can keep posting, you can keep writing. So usually I like to save my emails for more storytelling longer. Like if I could have unlimited caption in Instagram, that's the email. That's what I send there. So a little bit more in depth. And that way people know they're going to start getting trained. Hey, if I want the in-depth version of that, I need to be on our email list, right? And email is such a great place to be because we own it. Whereas Instagram, Facebook, all these other platforms you don't own. So this is not an email marketing podcast, but get an email list if you don't have one. It's so important. It's something we also go over in my year-long business program. Okay, so while there, again, like what I said before, while there are recommendations on how much content you should put out, what works for you is what you can be consistent with, or what you should do, I should say, is what you can be consistent with. If you set out a goal that you're going to put out a YouTube video every day, or a podcast, 3 times a week. And after week 1, you're like, I am so overwhelmed, I cannot keep this up. Then don't do it, right? The plan that works best is the one you can be consistent with. And I really recommend focusing in on a few platforms, even 1 to 2, before you move on. Because if you don't have that down and you can't even keep up with that, how are you going to expand? You are going to be so overwhelmed. And the biggest thing is you're going to be half-assing it, right? When I was in Beachbody, this isn't like a platform thing, but when I was in Beachbody and I was moving into my own business, there was a while where I was like straddling both worlds. I had one leg in Beachbody and one leg in my own business. And I felt it, and so did my audience, and so did my clients. It was just like, I was so half and half. And so neither could really take off. Beachbody had already taken off, but I knew I didn't want to do it anymore. And so it started to dwindle. It started to go down. And I was half in it. And so that was being, producing half results, and then my business was producing half results. So once I said I'm going all in on my own business and I stopped Beachbody, I stopped really trying, I stopped trying to get sales, I stopped trying to build a team, and I went all in on my own business, it blew up. It blew up. Now, not right away, of course, but the momentum, it catapulted, and all of a sudden, after a few months, things started to really take off because I put all my energy into that. I didn't try to split my attention or my time. The same goes for your content and where you're posting and what you're posting, right? If you're trying to post 5 reels a week or 1 reel a day on Instagram, right? Reels are huge right now. If you are trying to grow on Instagram, highly recommend getting into reels. However you can, just do it. It is just like, it's just where it is right now. And honestly, if you can like find a way to do it that's fun for you, which maybe I'll save for another podcast. I have a really good reels training that I gave my mastermind people. But if you can find a way to make it fun, you've got to do it, because it is like, there's just so much more growth through reels. Even if it doesn't like take your page to all the followers you want, you're going to get more views usually on your reels than your stories. Now, Instagram stories are so huge. Still do stories. Do not stop doing Instagram stories if you're on Instagram. But do reels just as much. Like, commit to that. They're just really, really prioritizing that right now. And they're really fun. They're really, really fun. I'll have another podcast about that. I might have a Reels expert on actually very, very soon for you. So stay tuned for that. But I want to again walk through a little bit of like what's realistic for you. That's the most important thing. So if you're trying to do 5, 6, 7 reels a week, 1 reel a day, and a couple YouTube videos a week, and a podcast every week, and write regular Instagram content, and do your email list, but you have zero team, you have no process, you have no like, okay, if I film this podcast, it's also going to be filmed on YouTube. I'm doing that right now, right? I'm double dipping. There's no reason you have to do separate ones. If you don't have that kind of process, you're going to spend so much time, be so overwhelmed, and not be able to like serve your clients, be in DMs with people, be on sales calls, like all those other things it takes. So in order to have that much expansion and be on that many platforms, you usually need to have a system, you need to have a process, or you need to have a team helping you, or all of that, honestly. So right now, I am consistently on podcasting. Every single week we have a podcast. I don't think I've missed a podcast week. I think I missed 1 in 2 years. Like my podcast is my priority. It's my baby. I absolutely love it. So my podcast people, I love you. So podcast is number 1. Number 2 for me right now is Instagram Reels and prioritizing doing 5 of those a week. And I'm having a freaking blast doing it. That's the biggest thing. Again, having fun and unattaching from the outcome. I'm so unattached. Some will take off and all of a sudden get over 10,000 views. I've had a couple who have way, way more than that. And then some will get like 2,000. I'm like, okay, well, who cares, right? It doesn't matter. Like I tried and I put it out there. And you have to, especially with Reels, you have to be so unattached to the outcome, but you should be intentional with it. And we're going to get into that in the next part of the podcast is how is it leading into your sales? How is it leading into your offers? How is it leading into your customer's journey? That's really, really important, even with Reels. But we're really consistent with podcasting. We're really consistent with Reels. We're really consistent with emails. I send 2 a week almost religiously. And then we are getting back on YouTube. I was super consistent with in the beginning of the year and just couldn't keep up with it with other things that I was doing. So now we're going back to repurposing, right? The podcast is going to be a YouTube video as well, right? Inception right now. So we're going to get back to that. But I also have a team. I have people who can help me do this. I have people who can help me upload things. I have a whole podcast team that all I do is record, right? I'm recording right now and then I do nothing else for the rest of it. They edit, they upload, they do all that. So I couldn't do that when I first started. So until you're at that point, you are going to have to do this yourself. So really get honest with yourself. What can I realistically commit to right now? Maybe that's just doing Reels and doing 1 podcast a week, and that's it. Maybe it's just doing Reels and doing 1 email a week. But whatever it is, commit to it and make a plan. So now this is where I want to go into a little bit of what to pick each platform-wise, and then we're going to go into how to actually plan your content out based on what you're selling. And I'm going to like be looking at a document. I can't share my screen right now where I'm recording this video, and podcast people it wouldn't matter for you anyway, but I am going to read out my content plan for the week that I'm actually recording this, which is way before it's going to be released. So it'll be kind of cool. So while, again, there are different platforms that you could choose, it's important to pick your platforms based on 3 things. One is, what do you really love? What are you really, really great at, right? So if you love video, then you should prioritize Reels. You should prioritize possibly YouTube or Instagram Live, IGTVs, Facebook Lives, right? If you love writing and you're really good at writing, then you should maybe prioritize blogging, maybe prioritize longer emails, things like that. So that's one, is what are you really great at? Number 2, what can you consistently stick to? What do you already have? What is something you can already dive into? Maybe you already have Instagram, you already have an email list. So how can you dive in and really just stick to that and become a pro at that, and something that people look forward to? They look forward to your weekly emails. They look forward to your Reels. Then the third thing to consider is, where is your client hanging out? Are they searching on Google or Pinterest or YouTube, right? Maybe you have a very searchable topic, like within health and fitness, how to balance my hormones, how to lose weight after having a baby. Those are very, very searchable things. I mean, honestly, everything is searchable. Pinterest and YouTube and Google are really, really great places to be, specifically Pinterest and YouTube. They're run through Google. Like, it is such a great place to be. But there are definitely certain people who will lend itself to that. Again, if you love writing, having a blog and using Pinterest to drive traffic to your blog is going to be really, really important for you to do, right? It's going to just make a lot of sense. It takes time, like anything, to build up, and you need to know keywords and all that. But if that's your jam, then I recommend investing in a Pinterest course, learning about Pinterest, learning about blogging, and really going all in on that. Is your ideal client in Facebook groups, right? Facebook groups tend to be a slightly older generation. So think about that. If your client is over 40, I'm 34. I don't think 40 is old, by the way. I just want to say that. But slightly older than 20, let's just say that, right? They might be in Facebook. They might be in Facebook groups. They might be hanging out there. So how can you target them there? Are they maybe on Instagram, right? For example, certain types of industries started on Instagram. One client that I was helping recently, she helps bikini competitors. They're definitely on Instagram, right? It's huge. And YouTube. Those are two places bikini competitors are 100% hanging out, and she helps them. So she's really prioritizing Instagram. Within each of these platforms, though, you need to make sure you're paying attention to the trends, right? So again, Instagram, Reels are really being prioritized right now, as is video in general. So doing Reels, doing IG Lives, IGTVs, it just makes sense to do it, right? If you're going to use the platform, use it the way they want you to use it at that time. It's not that you can't do the other stuff too, but if you really want to have your content be pushed out, if you want other people to see your stuff, if you want to grow, then you need to cooperate with the platform. So instead of being like, video, like how can you have fun with it? How can you change your perspective to be like, all right, this is a challenge. How am I going to actually enjoy this? How am I going to be able to show up in video consistently? How can I batch record things so I'm not just doing random stuff every day and trying to think of a reel that day, but I have things ready to go? Is your client on TikTok, right? It's a more niche, slightly younger generation. So maybe your client's on TikTok. I have one client who's a health and fitness coach, and she has been booming on TikTok. I have another client who's a binge eating coach, and TikTok's been taken off for her. Very niche, very specific kind of focus, right? What she does. It's very, very specific. So it's really good for niche down kind of people. Okay, so from there, you know what platforms you want to focus in on. You're going to focus in on 1 to 2. You know what you stand for. You know what you stand against. You know what your expertise is. So you understand like what the expertise is you want to be known for, what you stand for, stand against. So your view at it, how that is different, how you're going to stand out from everyone else with the same expertise, and then where you're actually going to focus on in your time. Is it going to be Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, email, etc.? Now, create a plan from this. So this is something, again, I'm going to look at my content plan for the week I'm filming this is the week of September 13th. And so I'm actually going to read out to you what my content plan is for the week. So I always have focus and topic. So my focus this week is when it comes to calls to action, all my focus really this week is to drive traffic to the podcast. That's really my only focus this week. And or my quiz, which is we always talk about the quiz in the podcast. We always have it in the show notes. If you want to learn how to really stand out and find your unique approach to coaching so you can be different from everyone else out there, it's not saturated, then take my quiz. It's really awesome. megannealini.com/quiz. It's in the show notes. It's completely free. We'll make sure it's in the description of the YouTube video as well. But that's my goal this week, is to drive traffic to the podcast, maybe the quiz. Topic that I'm really going to focus on in all my content across the board: email, YouTube. Actually, we're not doing a YouTube video this week, but email, podcast, Instagram, Facebook group. It's going to be, what kind of coaching support do you think you need? How to help people find the right kind of coaching support for them, right? When people are going to invest in business coaching, they're like, there's so many options. I don't know what I need. What do I need? Do I need one-on-one? Do I need a group? Do I need a course? So how to know what kind of coaching support is for you. And in this episode, I don't just talk on beginners. I talk upon people who are just starting, right? Like know they want to be a coach, know they want to be a strategist, but have no idea how to build it on social media. How do I create an offer? All that stuff. To people who are at my level, people who have built a very big business and who are thinking bigger and wanting to make more, work less, do business a slightly different way, have more time freedom, etc., hire teams, all that stuff. So the podcast really is incredible. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. It came out on September 13th. We'll even link it in the show notes for you and the description. Look at us being all easy for you. Okay, I don't know what that was, but I'll make sure we put that down below, because it really lays out like how to know what kind of coaching program you need, right? Or if you even need one. That's something we talk about as well. So that's my focus for the week of September 13th. So I'm going to read out what I do is I say, what's my focus, right? What am I driving traffic to? Do I have a challenge coming up? Do I have a webinar coming up? Am I going to start opening spots for my one-on-one, whatever it is, right? So I want to know what my focus is. What do you want people to do? Have a clear path for them. Do you want them to click a link to go to a podcast? Do you want them to apply to your coaching? Like, what are you driving them to? And then what's the theme? What are you going to talk about this week? What are you going to teach people? What are they going to walk away with if they're really plugged into your content this week? So the first Monday of 9/13, I am putting out 2 posts on Instagram, actually. One is a quote post that my podcast team puts out. I make the quote, but they post it with the caption that's approved. And so they'll put that out for me. And that is a quote, really powerful quote that basically summarizes the podcast and is driving traffic to the podcast. So after the quote goes out, it's and the caption, it's a really good caption, and it's saying, click the link to learn more. And they click the link in my bio to learn more. Then that same day, I'm going to have some reel, and for me, this reel is going to also drive traffic to the podcast. So the reel that I have coming out on Monday is actually an original sound that I made, and it's just me singing the words I don't know. And the text over the reel says, when someone asks you, well, what kind of coaching support do you think you need, right? When someone asks you, what do you think you need? A lot of times you're like, I don't know what I need. That's why I'm coming to you. So that's the whole point of it, is like me saying, I don't know. And I'm really trying to create some original audios, especially because I love singing and I think it could be fun. So this is an original audio, but the rest of them for the week that I'll go through is not original. It's just ones that I'm using that other people have done, which is very popular to do and recommended to do with Reels, especially if you're trying to pump out a lot. It's hard to do a lot of original audios, but that's one I'm going to do. And in that caption, I'm really just talking about, again, like, how do you know, like, if I knew that, if I knew what kind of support I need, you think I'd be doing it by now? That's the first line in that caption. And I say, disclaimer, I don't think it's wrong to ask this question in your application. But the thing is, so many times I hear people say, I don't know what kind of support I need. And so then I give them a little bit of guidance in the caption, and I direct them to the podcast to learn more. Again, the real focus this week is listen to the podcast. For me, that's where my people get to love me and know me and trust me. You can't fake it on the podcast. Like, I mean, I guess you can. You can, pause and you can edit and all that. But as you've heard and as you've seen, like, you see me mess up, and I don't usually stop. And I tell my editors, I'm like, hey, don't take out those little things, because that's just who I am. That's just human. Obviously, if it's like a big trip up and I have to say, oh, let's pause, that's fine. But otherwise, I want you to see that. I want you to see that human part. That's when people really connect with you, and I just love it because you can expand so much more. So Tuesday, the next day, I'm doing actually a feed picture. It's kind of a shout out to my hubby. I've had it written for a while, and I just haven't done it. But I'm also, when I'm doing it, it's going to be a carousel post on Instagram, and there's going to be 2 swipes. They're going to swipe twice, and there's going to be 2 quotes, really good quotes. One is, so many people leave their 9-to-5 only to feel trapped in their coaching business exactly as they did in their 9-to-5, but this time working 9 to 9 and weekends. The next quote swipes is going to say, so many people hit their biggest month and realize this is it. Don't forget what's truly important to you while you're building your business. Don't forget what lasts longer than money, longer than a viral reel, and longer than an impressive launch. And this post is to just deepen the connection and trust with my audience, right? I'm talking a lot about how to find the right coaching container and sharing that expertise this week. But I also, again, want to share what I stand for, stand against. And so I'm sharing my story around how I used to sacrifice what's important to me. And I used to work that 9 to 9, and my 9-to-5, well, I never really had a 9-to-5, but my, job outside of entrepreneurship, ended up being less hours in entrepreneurship. I ended up working more in entrepreneurship, and it took over my life, didn't give me life. So this is a post that really connects and helps my audience see themselves in me and my story. And it makes me very relatable, and it helps them go, wow, like Megan not only can teach this stuff, she's lived this stuff, right? And she's come out on the other side. So again, more of that pillar part. I always try to tie that in and not just have educational, because a huge part of, I think, my like secret sauce is connection with my audience. So the next thing I'm doing that day, I'm doing a reel, and I am doing a popular sound. It's a popular one that's going around. It's a viral reel that's going around, a trending audio. And it says, like, when you're an introvert, but also an entrepreneur using Instagram. And so this one, I'm talking actually a little bit more about introverts. And this one is more for just engagement. I don't want every single reel to say, click the link, click the link, click the link. Not that that's a bad thing, but I recommend having a couple that truly is just building that trust and rapport. So this day is really about that. It's connection about, my husband and my story and entrepreneurship and not sacrificing things. And then it's also like, hey, I'm an introvert. Are you as well? Surprise, surprise. I'm actually an introvert. Most people don't know that. And so I'm connecting again with them. Like, oh my gosh, I am too. And these are things I've struggled with as well. And I'm giving them a little tip on how I balance those energies. And then Wednesday is another post that my podcast team puts out. It's a video that they put out with a great caption that I always approve. And then another reel, and this reel is driving traffic to the podcast. This reel is, again, talking about what investment's right to you. It's more educational, pretty clear to the point. And then Thursday, I'm just doing a feed post, not a reel, and it's going to be more of, again, a connection post. And I'm doing a few it's a carousel post with swipes, and it's different Twitter quotes, and it's really connecting with my audience about how we don't care if you make more money this month than you did last, or more this year than you did last year. And I talk about my journey of wanting to hit 100K cash months, and then once I did, like realizing it took over my life basically. And if I didn't hit that, I felt so less than, and it became such an obsession, and I didn't do it in a healthy way. And so I shared that, but I share that in Twitter swipes so that you don't have to really read the caption fully to get it. You could just like read the actual images, which I recommend trying. Those have been doing really, really well on Instagram. So again, take note of what's working for other people so you can make it your own. And then Friday, I'm going to do another one that is just I'm going to do just a reel that is more of a connection type reel. Comment below which investment helped you the most. Oh, and listen to the podcast. So never mind. This is not just a connection. This is driving traffic to the podcast. So it's a reel using a popular audio at the time, and the filming straight to camera, it basically says, do I need to have a coach to have success? And I basically say, no, you don't. But if you want one, I say, no, you don't, but here's why it can help, right? So even in the first sentence of the line, it says, you don't need a coach to have success in your business. And then the next line, wait, Meg, this whole week you've been talking about the different types of coaching support I could use in my business. And now you're telling me I don't need a coach to have success? And I go, yep, sometimes life feels like a paradox, and this might be one of those moments. And then I go into explaining what the purpose of a coach is, and how anyone who says you will fail without a coach is lying and just trying to sell you. And so this, again, goes for what I stand for and stand against. I don't stand for that kind of marketing that's going to make you feel if you don't invest in something, you're a failure. I hate that. So that's what I stand against, right? And so this is going to relate to that and drive traffic to the podcast. So that is the plan for the week as far as Instagram. As far as email, we have an email going out on Tuesday about the podcast, and then I'm going to take one of these posts and really expand upon it and send out an email. It's probably actually going to be the email about my husband and me. So the one that on Tuesday, the post I'm going to do on Tuesday, I'll probably write a version of that and send it out on Thursday to my email list. That's a little bit more in depth about our story, about how entrepreneurship took over, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to take that. And so that way I'm sending out two emails to my list. One is drive traffic to the podcast, more educational. One is a really connection type one. So that's the plan as far as email. We got the podcast. We've got Instagram. I'm going to basically take all that and talk about it on stories, of course, with all these other things involved. And then no YouTube video that week. And we also have my podcast team takes the podcast, repurposes, and takes the show notes and puts it on a blog with keywords and everything to drive traffic to the blog. So we have those different platforms going on. Again, even though I've been, in business for a long, long time, I'm still only doing, let's say, Instagram, podcast, email, and technically blogging that my team does. But the podcast is fully run by someone. The blog is fully run by someone. And the emails I do write and the Instagram content I do myself. I might have more help with that later on. Even my podcast team does do 2 posts a week for me, but I always approve and edit the captions. This is something that, it sounds like a lot of platforms, but I could probably be on way more if I had even more help. And that's something I might do eventually, but right now this feels really good. This is something I can stick to. This is something I can plan ahead. And I did. As I'm recording this, I'm actually recording this on a Sunday. I like getting some creative work done on the weekends. I'm recording this on a Sunday, and I have everything done for the week. I have everything written, I have everything filmed, I have everything scheduled, and that lets me fully serve my clients. I also have an event starting this week, so I literally could not do this. If I didn't plan ahead, there would be no content going out, which is not the end of the world sometimes, by the way. You can totally take time off of content. Again, your business is not going to crumble, I promise. But if you are wanting to really grow, you are wanting to be really consistent, you got to plan ahead a little bit. But now that you see, I didn't just go, what should I throw out? I didn't just look at different reels and go, oh, that reel audio is trending. Cool, let's do it. I said, what is my focus? What do I want people to do this week? What are we leading into, right? I want them to go to the podcast and I want them to learn about what type of support do you need at this time? What kind of coaching support is right for you? And you'll see if you even look back at my last podcasts, a lot of these podcasts are talking now from September 20th up until my launch of my program, which is going to be in November, to that more beginner entrepreneur, because we are leading up to launch into my year-long business coaching program. And so everything is going to be really speaking to that person. What are some fears that they have? What are the thoughts they have when they're starting their business? What are some things that they know they need to learn? So I'm going to do some more educational content on that. This is one of those podcasts, right? A lot of people, when you're starting, even when you're in those first few years, how do I create content that converts, right? You create it with intention, you create it with a purpose, you create it with a theme. You know that, hey, this is actually going to naturally lead into whatever I'm launching. What do they need to know, right? What does your client need to know before purchasing from you? Have your content have that in it. Whatever that thing is, whatever they need to know, whatever they need to feel, whatever they need to really have in their body before they're going to say yes to something. That's the content you should put out leading up. It shouldn't just be random. If you do a reel, great, have that audio that you're going to do, but how can you make it in relation to what you're going to launch, right? Teach your audience something. Tell them a story, connect to them on a relatable level in relation to whatever you're launching. Try not to just be random, but try to be really intentional. That's when you know you're starting to be a real business owner. Again, you don't have to do 5 reels a week. You don't have to do a reel every day. You don't have to do emails all the time. Whatever works for you that you can be consistent with is the most important thing. But again, make sure it's going somewhere. Make sure it's leading into something. Make sure it's intentional. It's not just random. That way your content can actually convert for you. That's the biggest thing here. Thank you for being along the ride. I know this was a little bit of a longer one. I usually do more 30-minute episodes unless they're interviews, then we get into it. But I was really excited. I could go on and on about this forever. We're definitely going to have some Reels experts on in the next few weeks, so definitely check that out. And do not forget to register for our free live course happening on November 1st. It's going to be so incredible. And I've never done anything just like this, by the way, like a free live course, and it's going to be very, very involved. I've done many challenges before, and I love them. And this will be similar, but this will be very detailed. Again, you are going to leave with an outline for your next offer, and that's the biggest thing. If your audience is confused on what you're offering, then if you're confused on what you're offering, your audience is going to be confused, right? It's so important to have a really clear offer that speaks to them, that stands out, and that really clearly lays out what's that transformation going to be like, but what's included too. People need to know that stuff as well. And a lot of times when we're not confident in the price, or we're changing the price last minute, or in the deliverables, what do they actually get, then we don't even talk about it. And if we don't talk about our offers, we don't talk about our coaching, if we don't talk about, what we're putting out there, people aren't going to apply. People aren't going to buy. They can't read your mind, I promise. So having a really clear offer is so important, and you are going to leave these 5 days knowing exactly what your offer outline is. So I cannot wait to help you. Again, go to the link in the show notes or the description if you're watching this on YouTube, and we will see you in there, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye, everyone.